It's the Daily Dog.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Dog. I am thankful that you are joining me today. So I have been trying to branch out a little bit. We've been doing a lot of prog and a lot of classic rock, and I've had some people saying, where's the grunge? Where's the alt rock? Come on now, where's the punk? All that sort of stuff. And so I have been trying to get into that stream a little bit, and I've been looking at Nirvana, which is a band that was around and big when I was in high school and in college, and that I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to. So I wanted to give them another shot. And as I was looking into their work, I was drawn to the Unplugged performance that they did for MTV. And as I was looking at the track list, I saw that they did a cover of a David Bowie song. And I've also not ever had any music on the channel by David Bowie. And so I decided to take a look into that song and these two performers and performances and see how they're linked, and take this opportunity to include some music by David Bowie and Nirvana. So that's what we're doing today. The song is called The Man Who Sold the World. Originally by David Bowie, it was the title track from Bowie's third studio album. It was released all the way back in 1970. As I read in, the album is described as a bit more harder edged than David Bowie's previous releases, and the lyrics here are darker, exploring themes of insanity, of religion, technology, and war. Remember, we were in the Vietnam War at the time. And this particular album is considered to be the start of Bowie's real artistic growth into finding his mature sound, the start of his quote-unquote classic period. And this track, as I read in, has been called Haunting, and it makes use of a guiro, which is an interesting percussion instrument that you kind of like strike a stick along, and it makes sort of a ratchet sound. So I'll be interested to hear this piece. On this album, we've got David Bowie on vocals and guitars. Mick Ronson is on guitars and backing vocals. Tony Visconti is on the bass, piano, backing vocals, and he is the producer of the album. Ralph Mace is on the Moog synthesizer, and Mick Woodmansey is on the drums and percussion. So y'all, I haven't heard this. I haven't actually heard, as I considered all this, I realized there's not a whole lot of David Bowie's music that I've actually critically listened to. So I'm excited. Not only is this a brand new song to me, but I get to hear some David Bowie and some Nirvana. So we're going to start with David Bowie's version off of this classic album from 1970, and it goes like this. Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Huh. That main note's an A. We passed upon the stair. We spoke of was and when. There's that guiro, right? We
Was his friend, which came as some surprise. I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died.
I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone a long, long time ago. Not me. So this is the different personality, the different person. You're face to face with the man who sold the world. Okay, back to that riff. Okay, hang on a second. So the vocals here are interesting, or the lyrics are interesting. We passed along the stair. We spoke of was and when. Okay. So there's multiple people. Although I wasn't there, he said I was his friend, which came as some surprise. I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone a long, long time ago. And then it sounds like that other person or other personality maybe says, oh no, not me. I never lost control. You're face to face with the man who sold the world. Is he looking into or considering like a split personality, or the person that he really is versus his public persona? Is it insanity? Is it, a mental illness of something? I'm not sure. We're going to keep on going and see where it goes. That's a major key. Then back to the minor key. Then that sets that up as the 5. That's A to D. A7.
For years and years I roamed. I gazed a gazeless stare at all the millions here. We
There's that
must
5
have
chord
died alone
to D.
a long, long time ago.
Then it sets up a move to the relative major. But using flat 6 is the 5. Use flat 6. And then 5 in the other key. Interesting. We never lost control. Instead of like me or I, it's plural. That riff, though, reminds me of something Nirvana might play. So I can picture Nirvana playing this with that little simple, repetitive guitar melody. Sometimes he's using the major key, and sometimes he's using the minor key. It's F major and D minor. So there's the 5 chord to D, and then just up to the F chord. Interesting. Five to 1. This goes up a third to the F, and then back down to So which is it? Is it minor or major? Maybe it's part of the dichotomy, because I can't really tell if this key or if this piece is in the minor key or the relative major key. And we're talking about splits in your personality, your public persona versus your private persona, struggling with identity. It sounds like he doesn't recognize himself anymore. If this is, in fact, him like looking in the mirror and saying, like we cross all the time and I don't, I thought you died alone a long, long time ago. He's like, nope, I'm still here. Verse 2, I laughed and shook his hand and made my way back home. I searched for form and land. For years and years I roamed. It may be him making peace with the fact that he has a private life and a public life, or a performance. Maybe it's Ziggy versus David, right? And for years and years he roamed. Maybe that's his touring. And gazed a gazely stare at all the millions here. Fans, people that come to see his, that observe him, right, as he's doing his thing. We must have died alone a long, long time ago. Does it leave him unfulfilled? It's really interesting, y'all. It really is. Who knows, not me. We never lost control. You're face to face with the man who sold the world. Selling the world implies putting out a product for consumption. Right? You're selling the world on a product or on a thing. And I think it's the creation of his artistic self, right? Or these other personas that he allows the world to interact with, and noticing how that's different from him, and recognizing that, yeah, I'm still here. I'm behind all that. It's going to, maybe it's going to be okay. Knowing some of the mental issues and pain that especially Kurt Cobain went through in Nirvana. This is striking me as potentially a really interesting connection between David Bowie and Kurt Cobain. As I read in for Nirvana's cover version, I read that their former drummer, Chad Channing, had introduced Kurt and Chris to David Bowie's music, including this early album from Bowie, The Man Who Sold the World. And so for their MTV Unplugged performance, this song was included. It was recorded and broadcast in November of 1993. It was then released later in 1994 as a live album. And between the time that it was recorded and broadcast and the time that it was released as a live album, Kurt Cobain died from suicide. And that was all of Nirvana, right? Of course, Dave and Pat and Chris, these guys have gone on to long careers and been very successful after Nirvana. But when Nirvana was around, when I was in high school, I listened to it and I just wasn't into the grunge sound like a lot of my friends were around me. I was really starting to get into choral music and classical music, and that's what I was kind of paying attention to. It was around me and I heard it, but it never really grabbed me. So I am eager to see what Nirvana has done with this song. So this is Kurt Cobain on lead vocals and guitar, Chris Novoselic on bass, Dave Grohl on the drums, Pat Smear on acoustic guitar, and I think they have Laurie Goldston on the cello joining them for this track. So here is Nirvana's cover of The Man Who Sold the World. Here we go. Almost the exact same tempo, but they're down by a half step from what we just heard.
Although I wasn't there, he said I was his friend.
There's the major chord.
As a surprise, I spoke into his eyes. I thought you died alone.
There's Dave. Totally works for his vocal delivery, doesn't it? There's the cello. So he's playing an acoustic, but man, that sounds like an electric guitar. He must be like running it through an amp or some sort of effect.
I laughed and shook his hand. I made my way back home. I searched for former land.
It's almost like really sophisticated folk music to me. Really focused on the storytelling and the vocal as out front.
I must have died alone a long, long time ago.
There's that 5-chord.
Not me. I
One.
never lost control.
Flat 6, back to 1.
Face to face with the man who sold the world.
Then there's the other 5, the 5 to the minor key. And that's why, hang on just a second. When we hear bow down down bow bow down bum pum, it's down a whole step. And then the note that's above it is a half step above where it was. It sets up a dominant 7th in a minor key with that note that's lay, that's a half step above. I'm hearing sol down to fa, ba, then up to the lay, the half step above sol. And so when I hear that, it's either like Phrygian mode, if it's based on that, as like a tonic, or it's functioning as a dominant in a minor key. And that's what I think that I'm hearing. Off we go.
Not me. We never
subdued from the vibe that I normally get, that I remember seeing from this band. And it's a solid cover. It really is. I think they get the sensibility of it. Little expanded spot for some solos. There's the major key. Back in the minor key. So there's still that dichotomy that's running through this. Cello's just playing some long sustained notes to undergird this. Such a sad loss that we lost Kurt so soon after this performance. Right? I think he has a real interesting point of view, and I want to look more into listening critically to some Nirvana so that I can give them a proper shot, because I never really did as a teenager. So if you have favorites from them that you think I would particularly enjoy, especially stuff that's doing some interesting melodic and harmonic stuff, let me know in the comments. That goes for David Bowie too, because we need to get some more David Bowie on the channel as well. I know just enough about David Bowie to be dangerous, so I want to increase my knowledge a little bit of him. But this song that speaks to this struggle to come to grips with, I think, our own identity, the masks we wear to show to the public versus what we know of ourselves and our own personality and our own selves, and how we reconcile the differences in that, and how we maintain our autonomy and sense of self, right? Especially when we, like these guys, become part of the public eye and the stresses that come along with that. Really interesting. I need to think some more on it and maybe listen again. But I think that's all for today for this video, and I thank you for hanging out with me. This has been really interesting. The Man Who Sold the World, originally by David Bowie and covered by Nirvana. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on another edition of The Daily Doug.